My message today will be on three pillars. One, talent. Talent is the currency of this generation. By 2050, Africa would be the youngest and most populous on the planet. Our continent stands at the dawn of a new era, an era we can choose to either be defined by our struggles or be defined by our human capital and its immense potential. Our greatest resource is no longer oil and the minerals beneath our feet. It's talent and creativity within our people. Today, Africa's rising is driven by youthful energy, creativity, and the transformative power of technology. And as the world changes and demands for fresh perspective, Africa can be poised to meet the global demand. Today, Africa is still tagged all sorts. Euphemism used to flatten a more nuanced conversation about growing pains of nationhood. Our natural resources, quite all right, oil, diamonds, cobalt, and several minerals have powered development in Europe, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, while we get little or nothing from it. But you see, our present and future prosperity comes from harnessing our human capital, maximizing efficiency and using technology. But we must all be conscious. That is where we lose it if we're not conscious of the gift in our hands. No one must pull a wool on our face yet again. Our eyes must be open, like they say in local parlance, shine your eyes. Now, the creative economy in particular is emerging. Massive opportunity for Africa. For instance, in 2022 alone, Afrobeat was streamed 13 billion times on Spotify. 13 billion times. Yet, only a fraction of that revenue came back to the continent. The value of the global creative economy is 3 trillion. Africa barely gets 3% of that. So we must begin to look at talent, the creative economy, as a pathway for prosperity. With talent as the only requirement, it offers a unique opportunity for Africa in a continent where access to education and white-collar jobs remains limited. The sector has the lowest barrier of entry. Music, art, fashion, and technology have become lifelines of many young Africans, providing pathways for potential prosperity. See those young people on internet making fun of themselves, making a fool of themselves? You do not want to know how much they are raking in dollars. It's pure export for dollar importation. Purely. From Emanuela to Brother Shaggy to Macaroni to Bimba Demoye, massive that they are raking in. So we must be deliberate about our next steps. Technology is accelerating. Artificial intelligence is disrupting. If we fail to equip our youths massively with the right skills, we'll become obsolete for this global demand. And that is why this convergence of ideas, these fellowships, and all that Elevate Africa is doing is very crucial. Now, the cultural explosion we sparked is just the beginning. It is now time to position our youth with skills and competence to meet this global demand. We must refine our market linkages. Last year, I founded something called Meta Initiative, which we launched in Rwanda. And it focuses mostly on building competence across the continent, strengthening capacity, creating market linkages, and helping with remittances back to the continent for the creative sector. Why? Because we must spread this potential economic prosperity across the continent by creating enough supply for the global demand. Today, the world is eager to be part of our emerging story. But let's be clear, a network that doesn't bring value is just a gathering. We must leverage this wave of interest to build lasting value for the continent. We must ensure that the deals are done right. I see Tubo in the building, fashion designer, global partnerships. We must ensure that the deals are done right, that we not only equal, in some cases we get larger because we are the source. Number 2, storytelling. As we continue to gather this attention with the cultural storm that we're creating, we are building a soft power that can change how the world views us. When we were young, we watched 2 types of films, the American films and the Indian films. We watched the Indian films, we cried, we danced, we sang. But when we watched the American films, we dreamt of the American fantasy, of New York, of Hamptons, of Malibu. But when I got to New York for the first time, nobody warned me of the slaps of stench in Manhattan. Nobody told me that a rat was strolling into my train in Brooklyn. Nobody said there were no lights in parts of Bronx. But I saw all of this. But the narrative, because America understands the intrinsic power of narratives. They have used the media to inspire patriotism. Patriotism. Those who curse their countries. Patriotism. Ingenuity. Confidence. Assert itself as the world leader. America has won wars with the media without shooting a gun. Just by talking. Africa must do the same. We must fall in love with our countries. We must be passionate about our countries. We must bet on our continent. We must do the work so the stories are authentic by providing opportunities for our youth to upskill, empowering them through policies that truly change and empower their lives. We must be more deliberate and strategic to build a huge pool of competent Africans and then innovative Africans so that it is the overflow that we are sending to the world. Then the narrative will change because at that point, we're no longer jackpotting for survival. It will be not jackpot, it will be global talent export. It will not be hustle. It will be entrepreneurial spirit. It will not be informal economies. It will be grassroots innovation. It is not that Africans are loud. It is the vibrancy of our culture and our energy. This is a moment to use our soft power to shape the narrative and win the battles of perception. But all hands must be on deck. Everyone of the room are walking billboards for your continent, for your country, for your race. And everywhere you go, your actions are the data that the world collects that determines how they treat you and treat your people. The media has been democratized. Let me remind you in this room that there are 747 million SIM connected and 552 million Africans connected to the internet. 154 million are Nigerians. You know how powerful we are on the internet. We must use that. Every single one of you must reflect on what is the Africa you see, and I encourage you to share bold stories on unapologetic Africa, overflowing with talent and innovation. Let me challenge all of you that once a week, share something positive, a positive tale about Africa, a positive tale about your country. Contribute to the data online that forms how people engage your countries, your continent. Finally, women. Number 3, according to reports by the United Nations, sub-Saharan Africa loses 95 billion annually because of gender gap. A 1% increase in female education raises GDP by 0.37%. MasterCard said to me once that a study they conducted shows that women are more responsible with money. Like I said in my book, African Power Girls, that I wrote for my goddaughters, creating a new generation of African power girls is a business case. The future of the continent depends on it. I close. I am not worried about the Africa they see, because I know many times you focus on what they see